good afternoon, good evening from where you are watching me from. My name is Shem Kalafa. If you are new to this podcast, or if you're new to this series, be sure to follow me on my social media, YouTube at Shem Speaks, Facebook Shem Kalafa, TikTok Shem K_Sai, Sai is for psychologist, and Rumble also Shem K_Sai. Just before we begin, I'd like to give a very warm shout out to my family for the upgrade in the equipment that I'm currently using. So thank you so much. Indeed, it is something that I have been desiring, and that they have gone over and above to provide this for me. It is something that is truly big, and I truly grateful for them, and also just to thank God for them because of how He has been kind in them and through them, and how they have been kind in as far as giving me this equipment is concerned. So big shout out to you. Now today's session is going to be mostly introductory on what you're going to really focus on, and it is something that is going to take a number of episodes to complete because it is a bit expansive. Last time we tackled the mind series, the 3 levels of consciousness, where we looked at the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. And before that, we had a look at the depression series, which we had part 1 and part 2. We put a comma on part 2 because we needed to dive into the very area of our lives that depression happens, and that's basically in the mind. And so as we pause and reflect on those, just in case you want to catch up on that, be sure to look through the different podcast sections on specifically my YouTube channel, as well as my other handles in Rumble and on TikTok, as well as Facebook, so that you get to understand the very nature of depression and the very nature of the mind, and how these play out as we engage in our relationships, as we engage in the goals that we want to achieve in life. So today we will look at something that has also been on my mind for some time, and I felt that we really needed to discuss it because it is not just, I don't think it is just within my mind. I believe it is something that we interact with on a daily basis. And this is basically on children being an investment, the stages of development. And the investment that we are looking at in terms of children, sometimes as parents we usually think to ourselves, I am investing in this child so that they give back to me. And sometimes as parents we want that to be quickly, and we want that to be immediate. But I want us to think about it in this other perspective. How can we invest in this child or these children for their benefit and for their future? There is this proverb that says that he that waters others shall himself be watered. But the focus at that particular time is actually trying to establish an investment for this person or for this child where they will be stable enough in their future. And once they are stable enough in their future, be sure they will be thinking about it, and they will be like, my parent invested in me. Let me try and invest in them as well. And that is something that happens with and is built within the subconscious mind of this child as they interact with their parent, or as they interact with anybody who they perceive as an authority to them, someone who they look up to for guidance, for direction, for mentorship. And so children and investment rather is something that we will dive deeper into, not just in this episode but in the coming episode, so that we get to see what are some of these areas of their development in which we as their parents can be able to give our valuable input, give our valuable insights to enable them to develop into the people that they aspire to become. So when you look at it from that perspective, we are actually wanting to invest in this child or invest in these children for their future, so that their future becomes better. Another proverb that I remember says this: a wise man gives an inheritance for their children's children. So the investment is towards the future. The investment is always towards how can this child be well secured, at the very least at their level, and considering that this child will have children in their future. So when we begin to think about it within that perspective, then it means that we need to do all we can in our present moment to ensure that they live a well-stable and they live a well-grounded life. Something that when they look back, they will be able to say, indeed, my parent or my person who I consider my authority has made a valuable investment in my life. And that is something to really think about whenever we are interacting with children. What are some of the key things that we are helping them attain and achieve, so that once they attain and achieve them, it forms part of molding them at the particular stage of development that they are in. That has brought something back to my mind, something that has happened to me some years ago. Let's talk about it 25, 26, 27 years ago. And I remember whenever we used to board vehicles. Back here in Kenya, we call them matatus. Matatu is basically a public service vehicle that has, sometimes some have 14-seater, sometimes some have 26, 27 seaters, depending on the size. Whenever we would board public service vehicles of any kinds, even buses or commuter vehicles, I would get to see this conductor coming out of the vehicle. And they will use this word, boda, 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 boda. Boda, boda is simply board, or asking the passengers to board, asking the people he is meeting or he is seeing to board the vehicle. So when you come to Kenya and you hear this word or this phrase, boda, 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 know that it means board, 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 board. They are asking the passengers around in that stage where that commuter vehicle has stopped to actually board the vehicle. And as they do that, something interesting that caught my eye was that this conductor was always waiting until the passengers filled that vehicle. And the passengers will almost respond instantly. There are some who will take a few moments to actually get in. But you will realize about 10, 15, 20 people are actually fill that vehicle, and it proceeds on to its destination or on to the next stage to pick more passengers. And then that will keep repeating itself. And so another interesting thing also that I saw was that when this conductor is in the vehicle, he or she, at that time, it was predominantly men, but you're seeing more women coming up and taking up that role in that space. We will see that conductor picking money from passengers and giving back balance in case a passenger has given excess. So that is something that used to excite me. How can this person tell so many people to actually board a vehicle? And once these people have boarded the vehicle, they give him money and he gives them part of the balance that he needed to give back to them. And so when I was looking at them, I was like, this is something that is quite admirable. This is something that is quite attractive. And that formed into my mind. And I said, I wanted to do something similar to what this person is doing. I want to tell passengers, board, board, board into this vehicle. And I want to pick money from these passengers' hands. And that is something that really excited me when I was young at that particular time. I was basically around, when I was able to understand that and I was able to see that, I was around 4, 5, 6, 7 years there. Now, this is something that attracted me to that conductor. And the question that I'm asking myself, and a question I want us to ask ourselves is this: what attracts your child to you? What attracts that particular child to you as you interact or as you engage with them? Some of the things that normally play out in this child's life as they see you doing or undertaking your activities, they are easily able to pick up whether you are happy, whether you are sad, whether you are excited about a particular thing. And once they pick that particular thing at that time becomes very outstanding for them. And they really want to associate and identify with that particular thing that has been outstanding. I just gave my example. I was around 5, 6, 7 years of age. And those are the kinds of things that are playing in my mind when I was looking at this conductor. You as a parent, what are some of the things that attract your child to you? How much time do you spend with them to build a certain level of engagement in the things that attract them to you so that they will learn to appreciate those things in the same way you appreciate them? And so sometimes, because of that, a child will either pick up on positive emotions or negative emotions. And based on the level of interaction or based on the frequency of interaction, that particular behavior that they have seen, that they have picked from you, will at some point be demonstrated or be acted upon after a given space of time. It could be after a few hours, it could be in an instant, maybe in a few minutes' time. It could be several days, several weeks, several months, sometimes even up to a year. And once they do that, then sometimes as parents we ask ourselves, I'm seeing my child has done this particular thing in the same way I did it at a certain point in time. How come they were able to, and sometimes as parents we ask ourselves this question, how come they were able to copy the same thing that they saw me doing? Whether it is as a father or as a mother. It's because at that particular time they were regarding you as a reliable source of information, a reliable source of authority. And when they do that, they are able to filter whatever it is that you did at that point in time, and it gets into their subconscious mind, where their morality, their values, their norms are formed and are built. And once it gets there, it gets expressed at a certain stage in their lives because they have learnt it from you previously. So as a parent, it is very important to understand that children are not just witnessing and observing things. They are picking information. They are picking interactions that they are having when they engage with you. And as they do that, that filters into their minds. As they have that in their conscious experience, it filters and is built into their subconscious mind. And it becomes part and parcel of their thought processes. They think about it more. They want to do it more. Now, someone may begin to ask themselves, how is it that children are able to pick these things? Remember, children observe immediately from their environment and they consider what excites them, what motivates them to be attracted to that particular thing. And when they are drawn towards it, then they want to copy whatever that thing is doing almost immediately. Whether they know the consequences of that, of doing or of copying that thing or not. And sometimes they come to find out the consequences later. So it is important as a parent to really think about what are some of the behaviors that we are demonstrating towards children. What are some of the conversations that we are entertaining in front of children? What are some of the activities that we are having in front of children? Whether we are doing those activities with them or we are doing them by ourselves. Because these are the same things that they will pick from and they will learn. And much later, it can be within that space of time, within a few minutes or a few hours after that interaction. It can be within several days or weeks or months or even a year. Whatever it is they saw you doing, whatever it is they heard you saying, and you had a certain expression towards it, whether it was joy or happiness or sadness, they will automatically copy that and emulate it into their behavior. So it is very, very important to know how is it that, what are some of the things that you want this child to pick from you, to learn from you, and how can they develop it so that it improves their lives and it improves how they live their lives. When you're looking at depression, we talked about how thoughts form into words and words form into actions, how actions form into habits, how habits build into how habits build into character, and how character shapes the lifestyle. It always begins at the thought level. When this child has acquired a certain thought over a period of time, they want to do exactly what they have received based on what they have engaged with in that environment and how it has shaped into their thoughts. As a parent, that is something to carefully consider whenever we are raising children, whenever we are interacting with children. As someone who is of a direct authority figure, that is something to think about. Because you want to develop this child into a state where they are able to build a life for themselves that will be balanced. There are two key things that we need to think about when we are raising children in order for them to seek out the balance that they are looking for. One area is in their relationships. The other area is within their career pursuits. So how do we want this child to develop or to grow and nurture the relationships with others? What kinds of careers will this child be pursuing later in life? Now, sometimes as a parent, we may think, we may have this thought, this child is too young. They are not ready to start thinking about career goals. They are not ready to start thinking about what they want to do in life. But I've given you an example of myself when I was merely 5, 6, and 7 years old, and how I formed a career perspective when I looked at those conductors. If we don't begin training these children, if we don't begin raising them early enough to identify what it is that is attractive to them, what it is that pulls them in, what is it that draws into them, then be sure they will pick it from someone else. So the first person who helps them to form a mindset concerning careers is actually their parents. Now, I'm remembering another friend of mine who ventured into law, and right now is a practicing advocate. And just to give you a brief summary of his life, he once told me that when he was in Form 2, he immediately knew he wanted to practice law and specifically be an advocate within litigation. That was when he was just 15 or 16 years of age. And right now, he is actually a practicing advocate, a very competent practicing advocate. And he is pursuing what he loves, litigation. And he has been able to grow in that field expansively. And that has created other opportunities for him as well. So I may not be able to really dig into his history, how he got to learn about litigation, how he got to learn about being an advocate. But I am very sure at a certain point in his life, he saw how lawyers would argue out things, would argue out issues based on the law of the land. And he said this is something that he really wanted to pursue. At 15, 16 years of age, he already understood this is where he wanted to be, and that is his current reality right now. So your child at whatever level or at whatever stage they are in their lives, they are able to identify what it is that they love to engage in. And most often than not, it will form a worldview of how they perceive careers that they want to pursue, and what kind of motivations that they will want to get in order to pursue those careers. And as they do that, the careers themselves will give them the perspective of the kinds of people that they want to interact with, so that they shape and they grow into those careers. So there will need to be a balance in their social interactions and in pursuing their careers, even at that early age. As a parent, it is very, very important to take note. What are some of these things that are attracting this child? What are some of the things that you as a parent will want to build as an attractive system within this child, so that they are able to pursue that? There is this other proverb that says, train up a child in the way he or she should go, and they will not depart from it when they are old. Notice it says train up a child. It doesn't say train up a teenager or train up an adult. It talks about training up a child. I've given you that example where a child will copy something almost instantly, or they will begin to act in a certain way after they have seen you doing that particular thing. As parents or as authority figures, we are the ones who set the pace in as far as training up this child or training up these children into who they are meant to be and who they are meant to become is concerned. Now, training is very intensive. It requires a lot of focus. It requires a lot of conscious effort into the kinds of things that we are building into this child, based on how they are attracted to that particular thing. Let me give you another example. For those of us who are parents, I'm very sure you've seen, for those of us who have boys, a boy goes and they try and wear the shoes of the dad, and they try and pick the tie of the dad. Depending on the level of closeness that they have had with their father, that tie is simply a representation that this child wants to be like the dad. The same thing goes for girls. They go and pick up handbag. They go and pick up the mother's shoes. They go and pick up some of her clothing items. They can even go to the dressing mirror of the mother, and they start playing around with some of the items that the mother uses for her own makeup in front of the dressing mirror. Why is it so? This child has admired something about the mother. They have seen how the mother has interacted with those items on the dressing table, and they want to do exactly as what that mother is doing. So it means that a child's mind is not empty. A child's mind is always receiving information and always wants to act on it. And when it is acted on, it is reinforced. Information that is acted on is built into a value system in their subconscious mind. And that is what begins now to guide their actions. It begins to guide their behaviors. It begins to guide their habits. It forms into their character. So the question that we need to ask ourselves as parents and as authority figures is, what are some of the behaviors that we want to see being nurtured and being developed in these children? Remember, you're not just raising them for the present. You are raising them for the future. Children are actually an investment, and there is an investment that needs to be made for them, so that they themselves become an investment for the future. Those are the things that we really need to think about as parents and as people who interact with children on a close or on a day-to-day basis. Remember, anything that you do, anything that you say, whether you have a joyful experience, whether you have a sad experience, it is always important to set time to explain that experience to the child. Because if it is not explained, if they are not guided into it, they may be acting on things without having an understanding of why they are acting on them. And I'm very sure we've heard of this phrase. I've seen my father do it, and so I have done it. Or I see my mom do it, and so I have done it. It is very, very important for us as parents and as authority, people who are in authority, to be able not just to do things in front of our children, but to strive to do things together with them, so that they learn through those expressions. They learn through those behaviors that we are building into them. They learn what are some of the expectations that we have that we are building into them, so that this forms part of their value system. And when they have a value system that is being formed from that point in time, it will build into their years in life when they make their own social interactions with others, and as they want to pursue different career goals and objectives in life. So that is something to really think about. And as I say this, in case there is any thought that has come to your mind and you want to share it, please feel free to write it in the comment section. If there's a particular area of need that you still want us to look into further, please highlight it within the comment section and we'll be able to pick it up from there. So remember, children are an investment and there are stages of development. And each stage has its own mandate. Each stage also has its own input in terms of information, in terms of experiences that will build into that child based on whatever stage they are in. Because of time, we may not necessarily be able to dive into all of them extensively, but I'll highlight them as follows. The first stage is 0 to 2.5 years. That has its own inputs that are required. The next is 2.5 to 6 years old. The next is 6 to 7 years. And after that, it is 7 to 11 years. These four are the key foundational areas. They are called the formative stages of development of children, because in this area, certain behaviors, certain characters are built and reinforced. Certain careers are ingrained and pursued. Think about some of the famous footballers that we get to hear of. Based on my own study and my own research, some of them begin to go into their football academies at a very tender age, once their parents saw a gift or an ability in this child, and that has been noticed. This child begins to undertake that as a venture. They go kick the ball with other boys. They enroll into an academy. So they go into school, they study their own academics, and after that curricular activity has ended, they pursue their own co-curricular activities in playing football or in playing soccer. And they develop that at a very tender age, such that by the time this person is 16 or 17, they are already thinking about which football clubs or which soccer clubs will they be part of. What are some of the careers that these children become attracted to? How can we expose them to enough information to help them step into those careers and realize them? What are the people that we need to surround this child with to give them counsel to help them step into those careers at whatever stage of development they are in? Whenever we begin to think about children in that line, then we will start to engage with them very consciously, very deliberately. There's this other proverb that says, a rich man lays an inheritance for his children's children. So you're not just thinking about an investment for your children. You're also thinking about how will their children's children be like? And what are some of the key experiences that will be foundational to help them develop into those career pursuits and those relationships that will be important for them later in life. So once again, this is Shem Kalafa for Shem Speaks on YouTube, for Shem K_Sai on TikTok and Rumble, for Shem Kalafa on Facebook. See you as we will dive much deeper into children being an investment. Thank you.